afternoon to you, Dr. Boyce. I mean, even after Sandy Hook and so many other atrocities, is there a real appetite for serious restrictions on access to guns in America?
Good afternoon, Dermot. Well, this is the great tragedy. I worked on Capitol Hill in the mid-90s trying to advocate handgun control legislation. And then, as now, there was very limited abilities to get anything through Congress. Back then, at least, Bill Clinton, a Democrat, had Democratic control of Congress for both houses for the first 2 years of office, and he could get some legislation through. Barack Obama doesn't have that luxury, and neither has he demonstrated any political will to try to get any sweeping handgun legislation through. Even when he had control of Congress in his first 2 years, he stands no chance now with the Republican control of the House of Representatives.
But talk me through public opinion. Why do Americans cling so dearly to this Second Amendment that allows them to carry arms to fight against tyranny? Times have changed an awful lot since that was written.
It has indeed, and of course there is varying interpretations of that Second Amendment, but fundamentally it's part of the Bill of Rights. It'd be kind of akin to trying to change Magna Carta here. Americans believe that it's their birthright. It protects them against the government. Now that might seem somewhat strange here in Europe, but in America it's something which is very much a cherished right. And don't forget, of course, across America there are great swathes of Americans who use handguns quite legally and lawfully for hunting, for example. Of course, quite why they feel the need to have automatic weapons is another matter. And Bill Clinton in '94 did introduce legislation to prohibit this, but that was allowed to lapse in 2004 under the George W. Bush administration. And we've seen efforts by Dianne Feinstein from California over the weekend to talk about reintroducing that legislation. That is perhaps the best chance of any movement on this front, but it really is a slim chance, I have to say.
A slim chance, and we're talking there, aren't we, about automatic weapons, which we understand were used in this atrocity, not even about handguns, which, of course, as you mentioned, they can cause an awful lot of damage and carnage with.
Absolutely. The numbers are absolutely frightening, Dermot. You know, every 2 years, more Americans die of handguns and firearms deaths than were killed during the Vietnam War, and yet it's put up with. You see congressmen talking about right to life with regard to abortion, and yet they seem quite blasé about right to life once people have entered into the world. So it really is quite a remarkable attribution towards American culture, history and politics that at this terrible day we're talking about the almost inevitability of a lack of change rather than sweeping change.
And do you think they might approach it then, given those difficulties on guns, approach it from another angle? And I know there's already been discussion after previous atrocities about trying to identify people who may attempt this kind of thing in advance. Questions, of course, perhaps, particularly in this case, about some violent video games.
Absolutely, but one of the great problems here, Dermot, if you think about it, these guns didn't belong to the individual who did the shooting. So in this case, you'd have to try and prohibit the parents from owning guns if they've got children who are potentially going to be involved in this. You know, how far do you go with this? It really is a problematic situation. You know, you're almost going down the lines of trying to target individuals on various sort of stereotypes, perhaps. And we get into all sorts of problems with regard to the First Amendment then, for example.
OK, Dr. Boyce, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.